Hey guys, welcome back to Crypto Clan. Today we'll be talking about the UK's Chancellor going into detail in regards to CBDC developments across G7 countries and what this means for Quant network. On the 14th of October, the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, went into detail in regards to what a future CBDC would involve, and also highlighted a recently published report which discusses the principles for future retail CBDCs.
Today, I'm proud to say that under the UK's presidency, the group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes and coins. Unlike most of the digital money people use daily today, it would be issued directly by a central bank, like the Bank of England in the UK. And governments and central banks across the world are working together, looking into what having a digital currency might mean in practice. This includes issues that people care about, such as ensuring users' money would be safe and secure, that it could work with other ways to pay, would be energy efficient and available to everyone. A potential CBDC could offer businesses and consumers new ways to pay in the future. It's all part of the wider story of digital innovation that has delivered benefits to millions around the world and in the UK. The decision on whether to launch a central bank digital currency is for each country to make, and no G7 jurisdiction has yet made that choice. These decisions raise important questions about the reshaping of our economy, financial systems, and the way in which people interact with money and payments. That's why working together and careful evaluation with our international partners is essential. In the UK, earlier this year, I announced a new joint task force between the Treasury and the Bank of England to look into a potential CBDC as a complement to cash and bank deposits. We're also hearing from firms, technology experts and others. Under the leadership of the UK, this report today will help support and inform exploration of CBDCs in the G7 and beyond. With these principles, the G7 is leading an important step change in the global policy conversation. The report covers a range of important matters, such as financial stability, cyber resilience, energy efficiency, privacy, inclusion, and tackling illicit finance. These factors should all be considered when designing and potentially delivering a CBDC that would be fit for the future. Our shared objective is to ensure that CBDCs will be grounded in long-standing commitments to transparency, the rule of law, and sound economic governance. The G7 will continue its work in this important area, working with others to enhance understanding and use of these principles. We're excited to be taking a leading role with G7 members in publishing this exploratory work, bringing money and finance into the 21st century.
As mentioned by Sunak, the UK Treasury has published a report detailing the principles of future CBDCs. According to the report, the key principles of future CBDCs should include stability, legality, privacy, resilience and security, competition, illicit finance, spillovers, energy, innovation, inclusion, payments, cross-border, and international developments. The 12th principle of future CBDCs, outlined by the report in cross-border functionality, is arguably the most innately linked characteristic to Quant Network's technology. I believe the most striking point detailed in this section of the report is the mention of, while there are challenges in allowing access for non-residents to CBDCs, an appropriate level and a phased, synchronized approach of overseas access and use, with it looking increasingly likely that future CBDCs will be powered by networks of varying technological backgrounds. There may be limitations in the ability for cross-CBDC network interoperability, whereby differences in the underlying technology in future CBDCs may lead to difficulties in the interconversion and interoperability of fiat CBDCs, which in turn could limit the capabilities of non-residents of a nation being able to interact with a CBDC. This potential limitation may lead to restrictions in the seamlessness for cross-border payments through CBDCs. With interoperability and cross-border payments a necessity for future CBDCs, technological innovations will seemingly have to be leveraged to provide universal accessibility to CBDC networks around the world. The only technology on the market which has actively overcome the interoperability dilemma between networks, be it blockchains and legacy systems, and between legacy systems, is Quant network. Through Quant network's overledger, monetary transactions and even datasets can be directly transferred between networks of varying backgrounds. Quant's overledger would enable the seamless transfer of monetary value via CBDCs between stakeholders in a number of regions in the world. Even if CBDC networks are of varying nature, this factor will see overledger becoming the universal middleman for transactions, and due to the rapid and efficient manner by which datasets can be readily exchanged in this manner, transaction costs will be overcome, which is another principle outlined in the UK's Treasury CBDC report. The use of Quant's overledger in cross CBDC transactions will lead to the formation and development of a more inclusive global economy which is readily accessible for any stakeholder in the overarching economy at reduced costs compared to present-day financial infrastructure. Section 12 of the report, detailing cross-border functionality, also indicated cross-currency payments might strengthen the efficiency of international transactions, including remittances and cross-border trade in goods and services. It is expected that future CBDCs, namely ones developed in G7 nations, will have a strong influence over remittances and cross-border trade. Central banks may look to projects and/or technological innovations which are currently involved in remittance payment infrastructure and cross-border trade as a whole. Quant Network may be one project G7 central banks look at, whereby Quant Network is working alongside the Inter-American Development Bank Group in an alliance known as LAC Chain, which is geared towards developing a Latin American digital dollar. This initiative is primarily aimed at improving remittance payments between payers in the US to payees in Latin American countries, which use the dollar as legal tender. Quant Network's overledger is set to facilitate improvements in the infrastructure of the banking sector across Latin America, which will enable the active and seamless transfer of cross-border funds between banks on the continent in a cost-effective manner. With Quant Network actively pursuing and developing a digital payment infrastructure in Latin America, where CBDCs will directly be leveraged, G7 central banks may look at the progress of the LAC Chain initiative, and in turn, such central banks may seek to directly implement Quant Network and leverage the DLT project's expertise in the development of their very own CBDC. Further to this report, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, posted a thread on his personal LinkedIn page going into detail in regards to CBDCs. The thread noted how the Bank of England have looked into implementing privately owned stablecoins into a future CBDC ecosystem. Stablecoins may be a key pillar in the active transfer and interconversion of varying CBDCs, in instances by which the individual from one country wishes to transfer funds to a recipient based in another nation via CBDC transactions. A stablecoin may be the instrument which enables the seamless conversion of one national fiat CBDC to another national fiat CBDC. This method, again, would remove the middleman in transactions, especially in overseas payment methods. Quant Network has developed a unique stablecoin which is primarily geared towards assisting in cross-fiat CBDC transactions. Quant Network's regulatory compliant stablecoin or multi-ledger token will be able to be used on any DLT or mixtures of DLTs, which include future CBDC networks. This will ensure that whenever multi-ledger token stablecoins are used as the underbelly for cross-fiat CBDC transactions, token ownership will be recorded and a clear auditable record will be produced. This will enable central banks from different nations to effectively communicate and determine payers and payees. This will lead to the formation of a semi-decentralized CBDC, which the IMF is a strong proponent of. With the UK's Treasury outlining the core principles surrounding CBDCs and the importance of cross-border payment infrastructure, Quant Network may see itself becoming an important project in CBDC developments, especially amongst G7 nations. What are your thoughts on Quant? Do you think G7 nations will use Quant Network? Let us know your views in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell. Let us know your views in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.